Hey everybody, welcome to another How to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Danny Wood. He is a Sandler trainer from New Jersey. He's been doing this for a long time, and we're going to be talking about how to succeed at nailing your 30-second commercial. As always, the podcast is brought to you by Sandler, the worldwide leader in sales management and customer service training. It is copyrighted by Sandler Systems Inc. and protected by U.S. copyright laws. You can subscribe, you can like and share, and we are live right now. If you're watching this live, obviously, if you're listening to the podcast later, not so much, but you can comment on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. So let's hear from you and your best questions about the 30-second commercial. All right, Danny, let's get into it here. I need a 30-second commercial on delivering a 30-second commercial. What are we talking about today?
Okay. All right. Well, I tell you what, Mike, it's so important. I've been doing this for 23 years, this coming February. And the very first coaching session I had with my Sandler coach, he said, Danny, welcome to the network. We're going to work on a 30-second commercial, because without it, we are nowhere. It's a conversation starter. It helps us to put ourselves, to relate to our prospects and to whoever it is that we're speaking to, so that it gives us credibility, and it allows us to, gain some leverage as a salesperson as well to qualify the conversation. So it's, as you can hear, it's a very important piece of what we do. It's the foundation. And that's why I'm excited to be here today to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's really powerful in starting conversations. People always ask, what do you do? And you need to have a really good answer for that. Something that starts conversations, that gets people's interest. But there's also lots of other places that it applies these days. I think like you need something for your LinkedIn bio. You need something maybe to shoot in a vidyard and send to a prospect over email. You might be having somebody else introduce you and you need a referral script, and they're all kind of the same content, just packaged a little bit differently. So I guess the first question here, we always start with attitude, is what's the ideal attitude when delivering a 30-second commercial? I think people get weird about this one, and sometimes they try to overdo it and it sounds like a resume, or they make it all about them instead of the customer. What do you think about the ideal attitude?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at the new book, right? How to sell to the modern buyer. The first rule is a conversation between adults. And so really what we're doing is we're not making it all about us. We're not doing a feature and benefit dump. What we're doing is laying out, whether it was written or whether we're discussing it, who we are, what we do, and the issues, problems, challenges that those in the ideal, let's call it the ideal client profile that we have, what are they experiencing? So, you mentioned that's the first thing I did is put that in my LinkedIn when we started with that many years ago. You wrote the book on it, right? I follow your direction, Mike. Put it right in there.
Thank you.
So when people see that, they can, relate to those issues that we help people with. So, we all agree, I think, in the sales world that people buy ways to, they buy emotionally, they buy ways to avoid pain. Essentially what we're doing in our commercial, and we can talk about those elements, but we're putting in those issues, challenges, concerns, pains that our ideal prospect experiences. And that really helps when you're starting to qualify somebody. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think one more ideal attitude off the top here is really about the misconception here that the 30-second commercial sounds like it needs to be 30 seconds. And in some cases you only get 7. So it might need to be like a 1-sentence commercial. And other places it's okay. Like if you're in a conversation to maybe take longer than that, share some examples and relate to somebody, or pause in the middle and ask questions from the other person. Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about maybe the attitude towards our tonality, that we don't need to be all hypey, pitchy, and excited? We can actually slow down, take our time, ask some questions, be like, does that make sense? Have you ever heard of sales training and consulting before? Have you ever done anything like that? They go, oh, yeah. I've done lots of sales training. I've done this, and okay. Well, then what makes Sandler different is X, Y, and Z. And we can kind of have a conversation here. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that when I do mine, I mean, first of all, you can do it in whether it's okay. You mentioned a condensed one. I mean, certainly on a cold call, right? Danny Wood, Sandler Training, name ring a bell. Sales management training for entrepreneurial driven firms, entrepreneurial driven companies and professional firms. Typically, we help them with this. Would it make sense for us to continue a conversation about that? But you also mentioned one that's longer. If you're in a meeting where there are additional people coming in and they say, "Hey, Dan, here's so and so and so and so," you're able to introduce yourself with that. You're able to very often somebody says, "What makes you different, Mike? What makes you different?" Right? Puts us on the defensive. Right? Becomes critical parent, as we might say. And we say, hey, you know what? I don't know how different I really am. Would it make sense for me to give you a 30,000-foot view of who we are and what we do? And you can tell me if it would make sense to continue the conversation. That is another 30-second commercial. So, they're very, very powerful. I like to say it's like your bait and tackle box. I mean, where you go fishing, you use different bait. You go in the ocean with a worm, you're not going to catch much, right? But so you want to have those pains. You don't want to sound like a robot. You mentioned tonality. It's a conversation. All selling. That's what Sandler is. It's conversational selling. It's about them. Let me share with you who I am, what I do. Here's how we help. These are the issues, problems, concerns, right? Typically, I deal with owners of companies and corporate executives who they have really good people. They're growing year after year, but for whatever reason, they're concerned that they don't have enough new quality prospects in the pipeline. Or maybe they do, but they find that the sales cycle is getting longer and longer and they're just not closing them. Or perhaps they find that they close them, but it's not the margin that they're used to making. Their business has been commoditized. So, Mike, if you were the prospect, I don't want to assume, I know all businesses are different. I don't want to assume that you experience any of those, do you? And it's a nice, easygoing way to have a conversation. But you have
I love that. We're going to dive into the structure here a little bit more, and we'll talk about those different parts.
Yep.
But I think a few things are key. You said really specific pain points. And I think as we wrap up attitude here, you got to think about making your 30-second commercial as personalized and specific as possible to the person or group that you're talking to. So if you're on a podcast and you have no idea who's out there, it could be thousands or hundreds of thousands of different people. You're going to have to shoot a pretty wide net. I like you're using your fishing and bait analogy. But if you're specifically cold calling one prospect who you did a pre-call plan on and you researched, you could say, hey, Danny, I saw that you're hiring salespeople right now on LinkedIn, and I wanted to know if you were struggling to find top talent, keep top talent, or get people onboarded quickly so that they can stay in the role longer. Do any of those things sound familiar? Or ring true to you? Then we're getting really specific to that one person's need, and we have a much tastier bait there.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I love, Mike, how you your approach you just mentioned about personalizing, the approach, doing a little research, not just calling, but knowing a little bit about the prospect that you're calling. Also, when you're speaking to different people in the same organization, perhaps they're in different positions, they have different pains. So you're fishing your bait and tackle box. You want to make sure you're pulling out the right types of pains, to address those people. Because the CEO of a company has different pain than person who is at a management level and so forth. Very important.
All right, now let's get into behavior and doing the right thing at the right time. And I think we can talk about the structure. So if we're writing our 30-second commercial, it's actually a tough thing to do. I think it's hard to talk about yourself. It's easy to write one for somebody else and be like, oh, I know what they do. They, sell bait and tackle to local fishermen. And it's easy to write. But if you are doing it for yourself, I think people get twisted up like a resume and they try and use a lot of hyperbole or big fancy words that aren't conversational, and it gets tough. So help us set up our goals, plans, and actions here to make sure we get a good
Yeah.
one.
So, really what it is certainly your opening statement, your name and who you are, and a positioning, statement, who's the company, where you're located, perhaps, right? And then we get into pain, what we call the pain statement. And really the way to look at that is, well, there's a couple things. There's that acronym we call a FUD-WACA, right? Which means, people who are, right, what are they frustrated, right? Why are they under pressure, disappointed, worried? These are all emotional words that go into that, that little group of letters I gave you, right? And so, but what you want to do is think about, and if you're new to selling, and if you're experienced, think about your best clients and why they came on board. What were they experiencing before they met you, and what are the problems you were able to help them solve? You mentioned hiring A players, right? In your commercial before, we help people to hire A players, right? That could be in my commercial to help people with how to identify these folks, how to conduct the interview, and so forth. But in mine, you heard the pains. I've helped people who are frustrated that they don't have enough new opportunities. I help people whose sales cycle is longer and longer, they don't get decisions, right? All these types of things. So go and think about, who are your best clients? Why did they come to you? What were they experiencing before that? And then you want to have what you would call a benefit statement. And Mike, this is where I think people start to go, oh my God, now is the opportunity to do a whole feature and benefit dump. That's where they have the difficulty, because there's so many things they want to say, but you really just need one line that encapsulates it all. I developed mine throughout the years just by the way that it works. And we do reinforcement training, but I say we help people through ongoing reinforcement training, making incremental change a little bit at a time, like training a sales athlete or a sales musician. I found that over the years, that works for me, because people know that you can't get in shape in a day. You don't learn a musical instrument in a day. And so the benefit statement is what they wouldn't want to do. One sentence. And then we have, if you want me to stop there, go ahead. If you want me to go on.
Well, I want to jump in here on that one real quick, and then we'll do the last part. So not to interrupt, we have 4 parts. We're on number 3. But I agree with you on the benefit statement. I think people get twisted there. So I wanted to highlight, it's the stuff that makes you different from everybody else in your industry. So you don't need to tell them what a sales training or coaching and development company does. They kind of get that. They're already in the ballpark. What they need to know now is, how are you different, very quickly and simply. And so anything that any of your competitors could say, like great customer service, quick turnaround times, good value for the money, all of that is generic sales, pablum that anybody can say. So what's really unique about you, and I love the one you shared about, we really stick around. Most sales training is boot camp based or an online course based, or they figured out one little piece of the sales pie that is their trick or hack. And then they don't get to stick with you long enough. They take their suitcase, fly on to the next city, and leave you there to figure it out on your own. And I want to respond to Markle there. He asked if this is being recorded. If you are watching live, we are recording. This will be on YouTube and Facebook, and the podcast, How to Succeed, in any podcast app. But if you're live right now, you can share a comment and join the conversation with us. Part number 4, Danny, is the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that's the hook question, right? And you mentioned, Mike, I just have to say this, this helps us. Your competitors are not doing this. Your competitors are all feature and benefit based, right? So the last line here, this hook question, is really doing the opposite of what your probably competitors are doing. And it's going to sound like this. Mike, I don't suppose those are issues that you and your sales team are experiencing, are they? I mean, that's one version of a hook, right? Mike, all companies are different. I don't want to say that I know how yours operates. Are you experiencing any of those types of things that you find in your organization? So it's a hook question, maybe what we call a negative reverse here at the end. I don't suppose you're experiencing any of those. And so that's I think also gets people, shows people that you don't have commission breath, because commission breath would be, Mike, I'm sure you're experiencing those, aren't you? I mean, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden,
Can we talk about how your sales team's doing
right,
right now?
right, exactly. And then, as we know, people resist. And so what we're doing is we are acting as a professional fisherman, if you will, right? The amateur is going to pull the line and not get anything. The professional sets the hook, patient, and lets the prospect say yes or no. And that's what I meant earlier when it helps you to qualify and give you leverage from early on in the conversation and why it's so important. The other thing, Mike, is being prepared. I'm gonna give you more credit here, Mike. In one of the earlier podcasts, I'd say years ago, once somebody said the separation is in the preparation. You were talking to somebody, it was about data mining, but I really wrote down the separation is in the preparation. And you can't, a Sandlerism. If you don't bring it with you, you're not going to find it there. To say, hey, I'm going to jot down a few things and show up at your meeting. Oh, here's my 30-second commercial. It's not going to happen. You have to own it. Own it. And what we do is we teach, it's a profession, and professional salespeople have a 30-second commercial. You should be able to wake up in the middle of the night and be able to recite it. Not sound robotic, but know it.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight one thing on the hook question there, which is that's another one that can kind of change depending on where it is. So if you're using this 30-second commercial in your LinkedIn bio,
yes,
put a little call to action link there and say, hey, if you would, I would love to talk to you about any of those challenges. If that's something you're experiencing, click here for my Calendly so you can set an appointment, or click here to learn more about what we do or our next event, or download a white paper. Any of those things are great. If you're in a big networking event, maybe it's like, hey, I would love a referral for anybody that fits this description that I just gave. And so there's some different options, but the whole point of this is to start a conversation, to get things back, kind of knock the tennis ball back over the net, see what they're going to respond with, and then we can continue our improvised dialogue here a little bit. So this is just one of our prepared tools we have in our bag. We bust it out, and then we stop talking as soon as we can so that we can get them back in the conversation, right?
Yeah. No, good. No, I appreciate it. And good job, also, Mike, just sharing the different ways with the hook question and where it can be used. Because, if you're a keynote speaker, or if you're speaking to an association, you don't have to be, I don't suppose you're experiencing those, right? You'll say, hey, I find different organizations experiencing that. You might as well. I mean, you might be also. So yeah, you have to adjust. And that's why it's such a good tool. That's going to help to give you leverage. It's a thought provoker. If you're an association and you're giving a talk, and that was pretty. I experiencing that hit home. And when you hit home with people, they pay attention, right? And so if you do your commercial to a group, and you're in a committee, and new people come in, you want to be able to do your commercial so that it hits home with them, and then you have their attention, right? So
now we've talked a lot about technique already. We've shared a lot of places you can do it. We've shared the parts of it and how you write the script, but I'm wondering if we can kind of pull it all together here, or think of any other tips and tricks. The first thing that comes to mind is that no pressure cold call. How do we use it for a conversational opening? What goes before and after the 30-second commercial? So let's do the after first. Let's say somebody says, hey, that sounds great, and you got a live one on the line. Then where do we go next?
So if I'll tell you what, if I can, I could do the cold call, but we have something called the 3-foot rule.
There you go.
And I just share how this works in real life, because it's the exact thing that you're saying. Just instead of a call, it's cold. I'm 3 feet from somebody. I was at a networking event. Somebody got out of the car, tall, distinguished, gray-haired guy. I'm the short, distinguished, gray-haired guy. And we were walking, and I said, Sandler 3-foot rule. If you're within 3 feet of somebody, we have an obligation to start speaking. So I said to him, hey, what do you do? He said, my name is so-and-so. I own the X largest insurance company in New Jersey. And we were headed into a networking event, an annual luncheon. And I said, he goes, what do you do? I gave the exact commercial I just gave here earlier. And at the end, I said, but X largest insurance company in New Jersey, you guys probably don't experience any of that stuff. He said, Were you kidding? I've got senior people who are, aren't prospecting. I've got junior people who don't know how. I've got the frozen middle. I said, so-and-so, would it make sense for me to reach out to you on Monday and so you can invite me in and have a conversation about this? And he said, absolutely. And the next thing you know, I was speaking at their sales meeting. So in answer to your question, where do you take it when somebody nibbles on it, right? And I think this is where you're going. We go into what we call the pain funnel. We get curious. We say, how so, Mike? Yes, I'm experiencing one of those, Danny, right? Well, how so? Tell me more. How long has it been a problem? Hey, would it make sense, Mike, to invite me in and or hop on a Zoom and have a further conversation about that to see if we can help? So does that answer the question about where you were going and what you were looking
Yeah,
for?
I love that. I call it a mini pain funnel. We don't have to go all the way down there. We just need to
Yes.
go deeper with this and dig down the funnel a little bit and see if there's anything really there worth having a conversation afterwards. And I think it's really interesting to me because especially in these first interactions, we don't have to get married on the first date. We don't need to do the whole sales call here as we're walking in to an event. We're just doing a mini introduction, a little bit of our story to get their attention. If they bite on that, we do a little mini pain funnel. And then we do a mini upfront contract where we say, hey, what would you like to do next? What would you like to happen next? Let's confirm that. Can you add it to your calendar now? Or can we tap phones and exchange contact information here or something? And we can keep that ball rolling in just a mini conversation and then say, hey, have a great event. Is there somebody I can introduce you to? And move on from there, because especially in these cold calls or cold introductions, or when it's not right to have a 90-minute conversation about their problems and challenges, then we probably need to move on from that pretty quickly. But we want to do some discovery and we want to make sure we set that next step, which is great. Now, you got a really good testimonial from Robert Meyer here. He says he had the best sales year of his career. Coming off of that and using the type of tools we're using here. And Robin, one of our other Sandler trainers, said build pattern interrupts into your 30-second commercial is another key difference. So if you have a comment, go ahead and share them in the chat there and we'll respond to them. But any thoughts on pattern interrupt? Do you have something that really separates you from the competition or a way to change people's thinking about stuff in a 30-second commercial?
I think it's more about when you're trying to get somebody's attention, you are actually doing the opposite of what somebody expects, right? So if you heard me say earlier, I might have, but hey, it's Danny Wood. Did I catch you at a bad time? I mean, so many people would say, why would you do that, right? People are just going to say it's a bad time, but typically they don't, right? And so, there are, I was just talking about one in my class this morning of a trade show. We're walking up in a trade show and actually, I'm just sharing all these different prospecting techniques where you can use this. And I actually said to somebody, they go, hey, how you doing? And I said, well, I'm the last guy you're ever going to want to speak to. I do sales training. You guys probably had a magnificent show. I'm the last guy you would ever want to be speaking to. So I get it. No, not really. Traffic's been a little slow. What do you do? Did the 30-second commercial. And next thing you know, I end up at and the decision maker wasn't there, but they got me the meeting at a building and they became clients. I'm just, in other words, don't go at it with, I'm sure you need what I have, right? It's very opposite of what people expect to get their attention so that they will actually listen. But pattern interrupts is a big part of what Sandler does. It's doing the opposite of what people expect. Yeah.
I love that. We've talked a few times about the negative reverse, asking in the negative, starting in the negative is great. Upfront objections are great. You kind of shared one there, like, hey, I'm sure you're already using somebody. Starting with a pattern interrupt like that is a great way to help them lower their defensive walls and have an open and honest dialogue. Like you said, the new Sandler rule number 1 is a conversation between adults to uncover the truth. Yes. So if they are using their sister-in-law for their insurance and you can't talk them into switching, it's best to know that up front and recognize it and have that conversation as adults. So that's great. Danny, thank you so much for talking about how to nail your 30-second commercial. Now, before we let you go, I want to ask you some cheesy job interview questions. But I also want to remind everybody that you can subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. You can go find more information at Sandler.com. And we have a summit coming up. It's every year, but in March of 2023, we'll be back in Orlando live with like 1,000 of the top sales and leadership professionals from around the world and cool speakers from around the world too. So if you want to attend, go to Sandler.com/summit for more information. Now, Danny, you've been on the podcast several times here. So I'm just going to ask you, we're starting the year here. What is your next goal? Do you have a big, hairy dream, plan, or mission for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch. One of them I'm most excited about. I mean, I don't know if it's exciting to you, but to me, you mentioned earlier, I love the Vidyard app, and I love the fact that, I'm going to be doing a lot more with that. I've been doing it. But I think, having that cadence of whether it's a LinkedIn, whether it's a call, including, again, we use Vidyard, use whatever you want, but, and it's been very effective for me. And you can use that from an account management perspective of whether it's a sign and you're wishing somebody happy birthday or something, or you want to, you're reaching out to somebody with the 30-second commercial. So, when it comes to my goal, I have, 10 a week, of sending out 10 videos a week. So, for me, from going from a couple to 10, with all the, with everything that we do during the week, that's, I think that's pretty good for me.
Yeah, that's a fun answer. One of mine is to do more live stuff like this. So we've been recording these podcasts for 8 years. I'm challenging myself to go live, and it's working out. I appreciate the comments. We got another one. Let's see who is. James just says, what? I don't know what that was responding to, but we got him in a pattern interrupt there.
Okay, all right.
So that's great. And I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite Sandler rule? I've asked you this several times, but we just came out with a new set and a new book, How to Sell to the Modern Buyer. Yeah. Any Sandler rules jump out today? You know what?
I like that people don't argue with their own data, which you have as
that's a new one, yeah.
And because it reminds me that, you really have to ask questions and stop, don't bail somebody out. It has to come from them, right? I mean, what was one of the, and I gave a talk on it when we did these menu questions once, but, unless you ask questions and your prospect learns something that they didn't know before you came, before they spoke to you, then you're no different than any other salesperson. And so if you can ask questions so that it comes from them, they don't argue with their own data. If I said, hey, can't you see this is costing you $1 million a year? Yeah, I know. But if they figure it out, you know what? That's costing me $1 million a year. Well, is that a lot of money or a little money? I don't know your business. It's a boatload of money. Right? It's coming from them. You can just feel that now it's their discovery process, right? We often talk about, discovery. Let's do a discovery call. Well, what are we really discovering, right? So let them discover that it's costing them a lot of money, time, security, status, whatever it is, right? Production. So it has to come from them. So people don't argue with their own data, and I find that we'll all get a lot further if we follow that rule.
Yeah, ask questions, make them say it out loud, and make them give you the data. Make them go do some homework, look into their situation, or at least articulate what their challenges are. I think that's a great final tip to end on. So again, Danny Wood, Sandler trainer from New Jersey. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Mike Montague, Director of Community. Like and share, help us out. Send this to somebody that you think needs to hear it. If you have a salesperson, sales leader in your network that you think needs to or would appreciate nailing their 30-second commercial to start better sales conversations, share this episode with them. Until next time, you can subscribe, go to Sandler.com for more information, and remember, whatever you are, be a good one. We'll see you next time. Good luck, good selling, everybody.